Today I am reviewing The Wrath of the Spectre, and I thought this comic had his origin in it, but it don't. I'm still going to review it though because it's a good comic. It's quite simple. It's just Spectre killing criminals, and it's fine for what it is. This is the cover here. You can see the Spectre there. He's looking scary like a ghost, and he's saying stuff like, "Oh, look at me, I am a ghost." That is his catchphrase. He says it in all his comics. And this comic it collects 4 stories. 3 of them starring the Spectre, and 1 is just a generic ghost story. And actually, DC recently, they started doing all those licensed crossovers, didn't they? Like Batman and the Ninja Turtles, and Batman and Elmer Fudd. Well, here's an idea that DC can have for free. Spectre versus Ghostbusters. They can have that one for free. They can tell that story and I'll buy it. This one, it doesn't have his origin, but it's got a good little write-up here that basically covers it for you. His fellow policemen know him as Detective Phil Spectre, the toughest cop on the New York force. But Phil Spectre is not just another tough cop, for Phil Spectre is a dead man, a ghost. A man murdered by gangsters who has returned from beyond the grave to battle crime with powers far beyond the ken of mortal men. But you needn't tremble, gentle reader. Only the vermin of the underworld need fear. The Wrath of the Spectre. And there you can see he is haunting a plane, so he really means business. We've also got this text piece on the first page, and it's also continued on the last page, and it's good. It sums up the history of the Spectre, like the publishing history. Very interesting. The first story is about these robbers, and they're robbing an armoured truck. It's a bit like that film Heat with Val Kilmer, and the guards, they surrender but they shoot them dead anyway, and then the police show up and they have a shootout and one of the robbers gets shot, and this is my favourite panel in the whole comic. I'm hit. Hey, Pete's being hit. And then the robbers, they just drive off, leaving the one that was being shot behind, and they shoot him dead so that he can't squeal on him. So they killed their own. And then Phil Spectre shows up to investigate, and he finds in the pocket of the robber this business card for an antique shop. So he goes to the antique shop because it is his only lead. And the bloke who runs it is one of the robbers, and he pulls a gun and he tries to kill Phil Spectre, but the bullets just go through because he is a ghost. And then Phil Spectre comes back as the Spectre, and he starts scaring this bloke so much that he drives his car off a cliff. And then he goes to the other robbers, like this bloke here, and he makes this bloke melt, and that is scary. And finally, this is like the leader. He is leaving the country with his stolen money, so he's on a plane, and the Spectre shows up on the plane, and the bloke panics, and he takes the air hostess hostage. The Spectre scares him so much that he becomes just a skeleton. And then we've got a cover gallery here of covers with the Spectre on, and there's a bloke melting. And this one here, is about it's like a business story about intrigue and political intrigue and stuff like that. Because these people have been hired by a big corporation to plant a bomb in a swimming pool of a rival company's head. And what happens is the bomb goes off and kills him. And we learn a bit about the people that planted the bomb. Like, one is a hairdresser, and one is a woman and a model. And this is the daughter of the bloke that got exploded. She's like the love interest for Phil Spectre. She was actually in the other Spectre comic that I reviewed, except in that one she was a completely different race. And she isn't very subtle about her attraction either. She's like, "Couldn't you call me Gwen, Lieutenant?" And do you have a wife or a girlfriend? And then Phil Spectre, he goes to visit, as the Spectre, he goes to visit like the rival businessman. And it scares him so much that the bloke rings up like the people that planted the bomb, panicking, and they're like, "Oh, he's turning into a little coward. We're gonna have to deal with him." And then the Spectre shows up though, and he kills the barber with some giant scissors, and he turns this bloke into sand. And finally, we get the model. And I will say, even though she is a criminal, she is very, very pretty. Yeah, Like, if she wasn't a criminal that plants bombs to kill people, I would happily go out with her. She's very pretty, very beautiful. I fancy her. And the Spectre, though, he makes her all old and wrinkled, and then, like, she dies of old age. And finally, we've got this is like the classic superhero comic thing, where the Spectre, he's like, no, you can't go out with me because I am the Spectre, and the girl's like sad and dejected and walking away, and look at her face, she looks really sad. Like, after this, she probably started to cry a bit. And then we get on to the next story, which is about a dodgy sort of like evangelist sort of bloke. And what he does is he kills people who stop donating to his church and says that it's like an act of God. So Phil Spectre starts investigating it, but things get a bit more complicated when his love interest shows up, and she's like to the bloke, oh, can you help us, because the man I'm in love with, he is possessed by a ghost, he's a ghost, can you help us? And it kind of all comes to a head where he plans to kill the Spectre and Phil Spectre, but of course it turns around because Spectre is a ghost, so he kills the would-be assassin, and then him and a girl are like, oh, he's like, oh, you just can't go out with us, I'm a ghost. But we'll be seeing more of that later. And then we've got an advert there for The Question. He can't rest until he finds answers, until he knows what he must become. The Question. I have this comic, I've got all the issues, I might review one soon. The final story, it doesn't star the Spectre, it's another ghost story though. Two people, they were hired to assassinate this bloke, the mafia, they're like whacking this guy, but when they took him out, they accidentally took out this girl. And now they're basically being haunted by that girl and like her ghost. But it turns out that the thing is, it's her father. Her father is a hypnotist, and he hypnotized the criminals to see his daughter everywhere. And one of them ends up going insane and shooting himself by accident when he's trying to kill the ghost. And the other goes to prison, and he's just like, he's like, oh, I have to live with this. That girl should never have been shot, and it'll haunt me to my death. And it's an effective little ghost story. Next issue, The Spectre. This is a good little comic, this one. I like it. It's a good little, it's kind of basic, but it's classic, like, Spectre stories. This is a good, like, sampler for the character. I rate this comic 7 thumbs up.